Date with a Debut is recorded and produced on Awabakal country. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land.
All I hope for is to be, as you say, the kind of mentor I wish I had, giving people permission to be who they are within medicine. Don't let anybody else tell you that your career should look like X, Y, Z. That's something that is really beautiful.
Welcome to Date with a Debut, a podcast about debut authors, their incredible books, and their journeys to publication. If you are looking for a new author to discover or writing inspiration for your own story and you don't know where to start, this is the place to be. I'm Nick Wasiliev, host of the show, and I'm delighted to welcome another debut author in today's episode. You can find any books mentioned in today's podcast down in the description. We will discuss mild spoilers ahead, so I recommend you grab yourself a copy of the book now, or at least very soon. Wherever you are listening, thank you for listening with us and supporting the Australian book industry, and if you enjoy the show, hit us with a review, a rating, or a thumbs up wherever you get your podcasts. Lastly, this episode is brought to you by Podpixels, the ultimate storytelling tool for passionate podcasters. More on them later in the show. Hey everybody, it's Date with a Debut time here. I'm Nick Wasiliev on beautiful Awabakal country, and today we are diving into a special, amazing, true story about power, recovering from deep trauma and survival. But today I chat with an incredible woman, advocate, doctor, and founder of Hey Boss, a physician wellbeing company dedicated to humanising healthcare, the one and only Dominique Lee. Her debut memoir, What's Been Broken is All the More Sharp, is published by Dean Publishing in collaboration with Simon & Schuster, and it documents her journey, making history as the first doctor to successfully win a criminal court case against a senior professor for sexual assault. Needless to say, this podcast and this book does come with a trigger warning around sexual assault, and the best way is to speak about it honestly and directly. And if this is something that has happened to you, I've listed several resources, including 1-800-RESPECT, Full Stop Australia, and more in the description. Help is available to you. And as a courtesy, I will also include a timestamp in the show notes when Dominique and I discuss the event and its fallout in question. But I'm very, very glad to be discussing this book. This book is out in the world now. You can get it down in the description box. You can get it at your local bookstore. Check it out at your local library. Get it online, whatever suits you best. Joining me all the way from beautiful Meanjin, Dom, welcome to Date with a Debut.
Thank you so much for having me, Nick. It's my absolute pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you, and we were just talking about it as in the lead up to recording. I smashed through this book last night at record pace, and when our mutual acquaintance, Emma Payne, mentioned this book to me, I was immediately interested in this book because a large amount of my extended family have spent multiple generations in the healthcare space. And when I saw your focus on trying to change the culture in healthcare, I immediately thought, thank God there is someone out there doing that, because the stories I've heard at my end have stunned me on occasion. And just to immediately give you some flowers off the bat, I immediately gravitated to your voice in this book. It is no nonsense. It is direct. Frankly, it reminded me of my no-nonsense auntie who is also a nurse, even a bit clinical in some moments. There's a particular approach to that. And I feel like it's a big opening question. But talk to me about the decision to write this memoir in the first place, and why in your journey this was the right time to sit down and commit this book to the page.
Thank you for sharing my passion for the book. That came across really genuine and beautiful. So thank you, Nick. And I wrote the book hoping that for those of us who work in healthcare, and those of us who know people whose family members work in healthcare, remind them of their journey and their purpose. And as you said, I am a doctor. I'm a cancer specialist. I'm also a sexual assault survivor. Many years ago, in 2013 as a final year trainee, only a few months to go before qualifying as a specialist. I was invited to a then head of department to discuss mentoring program for the department, and there I was drugged and assaulted. And for over 10 years, I enjoyed the anonymity that was granted to me by the court. What really drove me to write this book was learning that other victims, most of the other victims existing in medicine, walk away from their career. And I learned that I was the only person that is known to not only win a criminal case, but also survive in the field and continues to work in their specialty in a tertiary hospital. When I was going through the trial and it became a well-known story in the community, a GP in Sydney reached out to Medical Mums group on Facebook, asking if anyone knows me. And one of my friends reached out and said, this lady wants to speak to you. Would you like to do that? And her name is Louise Stone, Dr. Louise Stone. And I wanted to do what I can at the time to contribute in this space. So I said, yes, I will be interviewed. And I had 2 interviews with her and I'd kind of forgotten about it. And came 2020, I think it was, or 2021, she reached out again saying, now I've completed my PhD about sexual abuse in medicine. Now I'm in the process of writing a book with authors from all over the world about sexual abuse in medicine. Would you like to be part of that? And so I said, yes, I'd like to again contribute. And I read her PhD work. I hadn't done so until then, and the publication that I read was a case study of 6 women who, like me, were abused by their supervisors or senior colleagues, and I was the only person who had survived in the field and continued to work in the capacity. I guess in a way continued on with my career trajectory, although I went off rail for a while. And it made me question, what was it about my case that kept me within the workforce? And the only thing that I could think of was my support network. I had people who refused to let me go when I wanted to leave my specialty, and kept on pulling me back into the sphere. And they were my biggest advocates. They cried with me, they fought with me, they stood with me at the court. And I wanted to write about my support structure, and hoping that by doing so, people will learn how to support victims when they're struggling like me. And maybe that would lead to less people dropping out. Now, by 2023, I'd almost finished my memoir. And in BBC, there was an article about this research paper that had come out through the UK in their Royal College of Surgeons body. And it was a survey which demonstrated that more than 60% of the respondents had been subject to harassment, sexual harassment, and many of them were assaulted. And again, it ringed a very similar tone. It was always the victims that were doing the leaving. And by that stage, it was over 10 years after my assault, and I was completely outraged that it's been over a decade and nothing had changed in our community. So I tweeted out that I was that person who the media covered back then, and I'm so sad that nothing has changed for our community. And it made me really determined. And I was petrified when my story came out on The Guardian. And I remember that very morning just pacing up and down, shaking, and really worried about losing my anonymity and everyone knowing that person was me. And when the news broke, I just received so many messages of support from people I didn't know or people that I work with who didn't know about my story. And more strikingly, people found ways to tell their story to me, either by email or other means. And it really encouraged me to do something with the book that I almost wrote. And instead of putting it in shelving it, maybe I should take it out and try and get it published. And I hope that it will give voice to other victims to speak up. And it gives an insight into the lives of victims that we otherwise think are Jane Does.
I must imagine it must have been quite a intimate and challenging process to write this story. And I know you connected up with the publisher, and there would have been a lot of trust in building that story out and making sure that it got out in the right way. Out of experience, talk to me about that experience of working with Dean Publishing and and how they helped you put this book together.
Yeah. So before committing or stepping into this journey with Dean Publishing, I had spoken to a few agents. I'd spoken to other authors who are doctors. We have a little community of doctors who write, and I also spoke to a few publishers, editors, and I just felt this deep concern that there was a real risk to losing the purpose of the book in order to make it more commercial. And so I kind of held on to the book until I really wanted to find the perfect publisher. And through word of mouth, someone introduced me to Susan Dean, who is a director at Dean Publishing. And I spoke to her about my book and the intention with the book, and she knew, without me having to over-explain or explain in depth, that what kind of a book I wanted this to be exactly. And so from then on, I said, well, it's yours. We're going to do this together. And I haven't looked back since. It's been such a supportive journey. And I would recommend working with Dean Publishing to absolutely anyone. It's kind of a boutique publishing house, and they're well connected. And so, they were able to propose my book to Simon Schuster, and here we are.
Ad break time. Stop the podcast. Hey everyone, just thought I'd stop to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Podpixels, the Trent Dalton of professional podcast platforms. Question, do you have a desire for a great podcast? How are you going to build it? What about the design work? Won't it cost a fortune? Fear not, for Podpixels is a simple, done-for-you website service built specifically for podcasts. They are here to deliver that professional look to your podcast to make it easier for listeners to find your show, and all for one great monthly price. From hobbyists to pros, Podpixels has you covered. Their team provides domains, website hosting, backup, security, and support, handling the full setup and making sure that your show is up to date and allowing you to focus on what you do best, podcast. With Podpixels, you can achieve your full podcasting vision. They are the ultimate one-stop solution for anyone looking to build an online home for their podcast. Check them out below in the show notes and tell them that Nick from Date with a Debut sent you. Thank you, Podpixels, for sponsoring the show. It's so wonderful that you had a great experience with them, and it comes through. It comes through in the final book that has come out here, and now is our chance to really dive into it a little bit more. I usually do a 1-minute pitch, but you've summed it up so beautifully in your first reply, so I feel like we should just dive straight into it, and that is that this book is it's so many things. Yes, a lot is framed around this event, but this is not about just that event. It's an examination of you reclaiming your own voice. It's an examination of the healthcare space, the culture within that space, the space that women hold as well. One of the parts of this story I really loved was the early deep dive in the early chapters into your family and that culture, your origins. I mean, your family's Korean in origin, and you speak about how your family was taught to endure. You kind of use those words a lot, and I kind of felt, and maybe this is just my own interpretation, that there's a bit of a synergy between holding a blind respect for people who hold powerful positions, both within that environment, but also the space you went into in the medical space. You talk a lot about being a girl in a Korean household. You're instructed to be obedient. And then I love that story of comparison with your brother who was caught stealing from your mother's wallet. Your mum threatens to leave. He apologizes and she tells him not to kneel. And you wondered, why can't men kneel? Why can't men show that space? And funnily enough, though, at the same time, you kind of say later in the book, as a child, you longed to be a doctor so you could help people. There's a clear love for the healthcare space, that you love the healthcare space. It's a wonderful space. It does amazing, incredible things. I don't want to be a kind of psychoanalysis, but I get a sense that there was very much a connection between your upbringing and who you wanted to be and your direction that led towards the healthcare space and where it sits for you.
Yeah, well, for me, as you know, by reading my book, my parents wanted me to become a classical pianist and be a lady of leisure. Like, why would you choose to be a doctor? You could marry one, and they never could understand why I wanted to do it for myself. But, for me, it seems a little bit cliche, but I felt that it was a calling. It's all I have ever wanted to do. Could I have helped people in other lines of work? Probably, but I was just drawn to medicine from the beginning without knowing what it's about. And I was shocked entering the system, realizing that not everyone is entering the system with the same mindset, and becoming, as a result, really disillusioned about my choice. But in hindsight, I'm still so glad that I decided to do medicine and I decided to stay. I'm so glad that people have helped me here, so I didn't leave radiation oncology, which is my specialty. And I love my job, and I know this is not true for lots of people in health. There are many people who end up doing medicine because they're told that the only choices for academic people are medicine, law, or what's the other one? Engineering, maybe. I hope the choices are opening up more. Yeah. And it's hard to love what you're doing if you don't really love it. And I feel sad for people who entered the workforce, chose a medical career when it wasn't really their choice.
I do think that you ended up going down the path that you were meant to go down because it was all that you wanted to do. And for someone who loves that space, what I love is you communicate the real nature of being in the medical space. That's kind of one of the great joys of it. Yes, it's intense. You see a lot of stuff. There are a lot of hard days working in the medical space, no matter the field. But there's also lots of joy. There is a lot of joy working in the medical space. You are doing amazing things to people to help them recover and get back on their feet. And you've taken this career around the world. I mean, you've studied in Otago in New Zealand, but you've gone to Samoa, you went to London, you've gone to Athens, I love the section in Mongolia as well. And the best spaces that you kind of highlight in this story is places that really had a feeling of kind of camaraderie to them. And the best spaces, were the places where people even acknowledge that mistakes happened, even silly mistakes happened. There are moments where people always get stuff wrong, but you still found the problem and you're on the same team at trying to fix the problem. The problem then becomes clear in the medical sector when there's an element of training where you have to be compliant to the senior party or without question. And in other industries, I was kind of sitting with it as I was reading the book and thinking of other examples. And in other industries, like you fly a plane, you're in the airline industry, junior officers are often encouraged to speak up. if a senior officer makes a decision, because it's life or death. If you make an incorrect decision, if you choose to leave early, if you don't listen to the air traffic controller, that's the difference between a plane taking off without incident or crashing to the ground and killing hundreds of people. And what was particularly telling to me is, even though there are relatively similar consequences, in some instances you are dealing with life and death in the medical space, that challenging of a senior person, there's an element of fear that comes with that in the healthcare space. Talk to me about that, because this is where the element of power dynamics in the healthcare space is so loaded. It's such an interesting thing to dissect.
It's absolutely loaded, isn't it? And I think, as an outsider, I would imagine it's mind-blowing how archaic the system is, because you would think, with all the emphasis, like you've used the industry of aviation just now, but when there's so much at stake, quality assurance is so important. You want to encourage people to speak up, but medicine has always been the way it has, and people at the top have held on to that tradition and not allowed any changes to seep in a way. The reason why we have a regulatory body like AHPRA is because there were so much harm people have caused that have been exposed to patients. But I think what people forget or refuse to acknowledge is that those doctors or higher ups that harm patients don't just harm patients, they harm absolutely everyone in their path. And the system is not set up to protect their own staff. It says a lot about the leadership and who gets to sit in the leadership or where the decision table where the decisions are made. It's an exclusive group in many ways, although there have been some, I guess, advances or progress made with women, being part of the board or at leadership level. I really feel that compared to other industries, though, it is so slow. And I often think that just because you look like you represent something, it doesn't mean that person represents that group of people. You know what I mean? And so I've met plenty of, and when I talk about abuse and discrimination, bullying in medicine, which is the numbers are striking and have always done so, and so stubbornly have not moved. Every time we do research, the numbers are pretty much the same. Bullying and harassment rates always 30 to 50%. Burnout rate is over 50%. And sexual harassment or assault is 10 to 30%. The numbers never shift. And death by suicide is the only cause of death among doctors that is higher than the general population. And the refusal to do something about this is, I think, mind-numbing. As I was alluding to earlier, you can have women at the table, but it doesn't guarantee that the minority voices will be heard. I found very early on that in my medical training as a medical student, that if you speak up, you will be humiliated. You will not be given opportunities. And so in a way, I think my Korean Asian upbringing, where I was constantly told to be quiet, served me well as a junior doctor, because I was obedient. I was seen as a good junior doctor. And I think in a way, people didn't realize that I have that internal fire, because on the outside, I seem so pleasant. And one of my best friends at work, colleagues at work, says that's my superpower, because people don't know which version of me they're going to get. Because the stereotyping has served me well up until my assault. I find it really interesting that even someone like me with a very strong core, belief and driven to do the right thing, and one of my core values is justice. The first few years of medical training blurred all the lines, and I found myself accepting unacceptable things as normal behavior. And it happens to everyone, pretty much everyone who works in the industry, because you don't see people making complaints and being treated with respect when they do. Usually what happens is you complain, you get moved on, because the system is designed to serve the higher ups and the people who are not answerable to anyone, not the junior staff that come and go and have nothing to do with institutional reputation.
You bring out some incredible statistics. I mean, I was going to mention these statistics a bit later on, but now seems a valuable time to do it. You brought out some ABS data about how 22% of women and 6% of men experience sexual violence since they were 15, which already is a number that is too high. It is already a number that is too high. But then in the medical space, in Australia and New Zealand, it jumps up to 49% of all fellows, trainees, graduates experience either bullying, discrimination, or sexual harassment. And then there's the number that 90% of women and 81% of men have witnessed sexual misconduct is completely unacceptable. There's no other way to describe it. It's completely anyone who is not in that space, anyone who is not seeing that would immediately look at it and go, hey, this is a problem. We need to do something about this. Those sorts of, that is an idea of, that is norms. That is, it's just normal. But it's not normal. It's not acceptable.
It's not normal.
No.
Completely unacceptable. I find it so interesting because I don't know what it will take for the leadership or, I guess, decision makers to realize that, you know, it's a big number. You know, the APRA, which is the regulatory body, they do yearly surveys. And last year they surveyed, this is 2025 data, they surveyed something like 17,000 junior doctors. And the numbers are still the same, right? And higher so for First Nations, Aboriginal folk, and also if we say, so my argument is, and then they'll say, it's, you know, response bias. So only people who have experienced these things or feel strongly in this area, in this space, will fill out the survey and tick the right boxes. And my argument is if you have 17,000 people and 30% of these people are saying that they are experiencing bullying, discrimination and harassment, that is 5,000 healthcare workers. That's a lot. How can we rationalize ignoring these numbers and say it's all right, it's not enough to change the system and risk that some people will be wrongly accused? Because often this is the argument you hear, right? Well, what about the ones who are wrongfully accused? What if people take advantage of the system and end careers of people who don't deserve it? Isn't it interesting that this argument is used when there is strong statistics to say people are leaving when they didn't do anything wrong? The victims are leaving. So those who are victimized leaving the system, that's not a problem. But the people who are wrongfully accused leaving, the tiny number the whole point is that we need to have an investigative process to make sure there is justice to all.
Absolutely, because if you don't, there's significant consequences to it. And we're now at the part of the podcast where I kind of really need to put an official warning in for anyone listening in regards to sexual assault, because we're going to talk about this very honestly and to the point. You call it your turn back time moment. In my head and my heart, and I, sexual assault is one of the worst things that you can do to a person. It's one of the worst things you can do to a person, because that person has to live with that for every day afterwards. Mm-hmm. You move to Sydney, you find this hostile space, and you have this encounter with John Kearsley. I mean, I remember your colleague, Roy, going back to a point you said earlier, there's that just creepy words that he described where he said, he liked Asian girls because they're so nice and they do as they're told, which was just made my blood boil just hearing that, and hearing that it was just the normality of it. It was the normality of it. It was the fact that it was just, this is what he does. And you went out to dinner with him around this to discuss this mentoring program, and he drugged you and assaulted you at his house. You speak about how your belief system off the back of this collapsed. It shattered your self-image. You feel like you didn't belong in this space anymore. There was humiliation, there was disgust, there was anger, there was regret going into this profession. You talk also about, as we've alluded to, how the fact that so many people leave, even down to affecting the clothes that you bought, and how, and you're exploring your own femininity. And as a result, like, you're trying to manage the impact of that trauma. Like, as a result of that, like, trying to do that, seeking help, particularly in that environment where kicking up a fuss, you're labeled as a troublemaker, is extremely difficult. How do you treat that? How do you manage it? I must imagine writing that section must have been extremely difficult. I don't even have a question. I just want to tip my hat to you at how well you communicate the impact of this, because it was just, it's such a difficult situation one finds oneself in, and you lay it there in painful but extremely necessary detail.
Thank you, Nick. It was really, really, really hard. But at the same time, I think it helped me realize, when you can see your feeling in words, I think there is some validation in that alone, and just kind of crafting your language and so on. Obviously, I wrote this many years later. I was still exploring in that self-compassion space, with my psychologist teaching me what self-compassion is, and because I'd hated myself for so many years, and being able to relive that, it made me want to just go back and give myself a big hug for having experienced all of that rawness and confusion and disgust, all of that, and the overwhelming nature of these feelings that you don't know how to contain. At the time, obviously, I was very angry at the perpetrator, but I was more angry at myself. And I think I'm not alone as a survivor. I think many people, dare I say most victims, feel that way. At some point, it may not be as long, or it could be longer period of time than me. But the language, when it comes to sexual violence that you hear from a young age, especially as a woman, it's not just women, as a human, can I say? As a human being violated, there was so much language that was said to me that the women have to look after themselves because men are evil and they'll do awful things. And the self-talk that then came about how I should have not allowed this to happen. Like, I'm supposed to be a smart, strong individual. And the fact that this had happened to me meant I am not any of those things that I thought I was. And that was extremely, it shook everything. And it shattered my world, as you say. And it shattered self-view of me, which is my world. And then everything became unsafe.
The aftermath of this moment was chilling. I think your interactions with Detective Paul in this, following this, are very interesting. Of course, the perpetrator was arrested. They tried to get a plea deal. And I love that you said, this is not right. This does not feel right. You fought it. But some of the responses from the people around you really stunned me on several occasions. I completely understand what you mean, where you say that you'd been told that to have that obedient approach, but this has shown the obedient approach in this doesn't work in the world we live in. There's a guilt to it, there's a weight to it, and the logic behind it just doesn't make sense. That segment where Detective Paul kind of said, "Oh, we interviewed everyone in the department. I've never seen a group of people so cooperative. I thought, there was clearly a lot of respect for you." And I loved your response, which was, they don't care for me. They're scared. They're trained to be compliant when there is an authority involved. It's about fear. And then that moment with your GP where they said, if he apologized, would that be enough for you? In my head, no, it wouldn't be enough at all. Even your mum's response was just, wow. Like her saying, "Oh, do you have to go through with this? It's going to be so hard for you." It missed the one, actually, funnily enough, that really stunned me was Roy. Going back, bringing it back around to him, where he said, "Yeah, everyone knew that he was a creep." And in my head, I'm like, well, why didn't you say something? Why didn't anyone say anything about this behavior? It brings it back to something we were talking about a little bit earlier, and is a key fundamental part of this book, which is that is the culture of this world. And I love that, again, a reason why I was drawn to this book, and I know that's a key part of you now, that you're trying to change the culture of that industry and how we address these problems at large. The fact that Kisley had done this to other women, the system had also given him the benefit of the doubt in that regard. I'm aware I'm asking a big question, and it's a question that you're framing your career around now with the work you do now, but there was a great quote that you said in an interview with the Limbic, where you said, quote, "In my experience, around 90 to 97% of the women I've worked with or the people I've worked with, rather, in medicine are good, kind, ethical people. It's only 1 or 2% who repeatedly cause serious harm. So the real question becomes, why does the 97% stay silent?" And I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit around a process somewhere, but I must admit I'm also stumped by this question. How do we tackle this? How do we even begin? Yes, it's extremely bad in the medical sector, but another part of me is like, we are not good at talking about this at all in general. We're very bad about it. We assume we assume the victim is the whole idea of going back to the clothes, talking about, what clothes were they wearing? What does that say? It says that they were asking for it subliminally. No, it's not. That's someone putting different context on it. How do we even begin to tackle this sort of stuff?
So it's so hard, and it's a massive question. I think in terms
I'm sorry, it's a big question.
Community, it's a big question, but I think important one to ask. And the question is, why aren't we asking these questions? Because if you don't ask the questions, the solutions will never come, right? With medicine, as I was writing this book, and the more I reflect about the culture of it, it is a weird place where common sense doesn't rule. It's so hierarchical. There is no accountability, only for certain people. It's very easy to pin junior doctors or nurses or junior people, but when it comes to powerful individuals who not only have a standing within their own institution, but have standing across other institutions such as university or the medical board or whatever it might be, because the power is sort of spread through, and they've never been held accountable for any of their actions, and they're driven to dominate. So as you said, most people in medicine, healthcare workers, are beautiful people. That's why they're in the industry. I know for a fact that my colleagues within my department, they would do anything to support other colleagues and also patients. Most of us work so many hours unpaid. It's because we care about the patients, right? But there are those individuals with, may I say, narcissistic tendencies who are really driven to dominate over people, and they keep pushing the boundaries. I don't think anyone who throws scalpels in theatre, which happens, starts off by doing that very early in their career. I think they would maybe throw a chart, maybe throw, another instrument. And then when people don't say anything, it kind of feels a part of their something that makes them want to push the boundaries more and more to exert their power and dominance over people. And it's that culture that has silenced good people, that allows, that enables poor behaving or people with poor conduct to escalate and do worse things. And, these people are very typical, and it wouldn't surprise you what they're like day to day, because every single person who's been found out to have done harm to patients and have been all over the news, whatever, Simon Gordon recently, and then there was Dr. Death, Jayant Patel. These individuals never acknowledge that they're at fault, right? And they think they're better than everybody else. The personality traits, I could write a book about that, but we don't have the system to hold them accountable. And that is exactly the problem, because, powerful people who know how to climb to positions of power know exactly how to weaponize that to get what they want. And it's usually not for the greater good. And when institutions see them as someone who either has very short waiting list or brings in a lot of money or whatever it is, then they value them, and they're intimately connected to the reputation of the institution, and they will do whatever it takes to protect them. And we do not have a system to safely report outside the organization. So there's so much that is by chance. So let's say you're a junior doctor who somebody senior had assaulted or badly bullied. If that person happens to be your head of department, who do you go to? If you go to HR, often the colleges will say this is a HR issue. So then you go to HR, and HR tend to be the youngest female, generally the least paid, and against a very highly paid $1 million earning doctor, they're absolutely no one. They're not going to be answerable to these HR people. And so, there's just no good examples for people who are powerless to trust in the system to do the right thing. And when that's been going on for centuries, this is like medicine has been practicing this way. People have been giving blind trust to doctors, for as long as remember. There is no other industry where people go and take their clothes off willingly and allow someone to touch their body, right? And because it's seen as a noble profession, there is just a complete lack of oversight. I think nowadays we have APRA, but that's only related to patients. If we had a different independent body where work-related abuse or bullying could be reported to and independently investigated, the number of patients are actually harmed as a result of poorly behaving individuals would dramatically come down, because there's different ways of deterring poor behavior. Let me tell you something. The other thing that I don't understand about our industry is, let's say somebody is caught doing something, I don't know, had child pornography at work, whatever, and they get pinged. Investigation happens, and the person is, told that this is misconduct. You'll be supervised for 6 months or whatever. There's all these pathways and workshops that person must be compliant with to be able to re-enter the workforce. In my mind, I do not want anyone with that kind of past touching me or my family member, but somebody somewhere decides that, no, this person is regretful and we will let them continue because that's their livelihood. Anyway, so they will re-enter the workforce. Someone like me who has been let down by the system, I guess, and hurt by the system, struggling to make a way back into the workforce, there is nothing that is other than EAP. EAP is, you know what it is, you know. There is no proper structure to help them re-enter the workforce. And to me, that in itself is mind-blowing. Like, why won't you help the people who are victims, but you're quite happy to help people who are abusing their position of power to re-enter the workforce? Isn't that crazy?
It absolutely is crazy, but this is also a good point to touch on the end of the book and build on from that point, because the book at its core is about you reclaiming your voice and starting that process. This book has a wonderful ending. I love how you've decided to dedicate yourself to supporting misfits of medicine, and you would be the mentor that you wish that you had. It's such a wonderful goal to the gold that you spun out of this broken, out of being broken by this situation. I love the story with the Guardian journalist, that the recovery that has begun. You said that your recovery began when you started reaching out to people. You've put your story out there. You've claimed that narrative and fought back, and through doing that, you found your voice and reclaimed some of your power in this scenario. Is that, in a way, the way forward for us to start to deal with this stuff? Because to not only do that, to promote an environment that not only calls out this kind of behaviour, but do so with the aim of creating a future healthcare environment where this sort of behaviour just doesn't happen anymore. Mm-hmm. Aim for that and strive for that, because one day, if you do and everyone calls it out as such, it could be done. Is that a way to begin?
Oh, 100%. I couldn't have put it better myself, Nick.
Talk to me about reclaiming your own voice a little bit, because, you know, I know that writing this book has been part of your journey. It's, you know, writing this helped, you know, with you being the person that you wanted to become. I think you described that now. I know at the time, you know, you were kind of very much sitting with it as you were writing it down, but now that the book is finished, you've had a bit of a separation between putting the words to the page and now. What did this exercise of writing this book, writing What's Been Broken is All the More Sharp, what did it teach you?
I started writing, as I said, to help other victims and those who want to support them. And I feel so grateful that in doing so, the intention was good, I guess. I was able to look at my life with compassion and find my roots and find what drives me, and what my authentic contribution to medicine could look like. I spent years pursuing a career that is considered successful in everybody else's eyes. You know, you finish medical school, choose a specialty, become a specialist, and you become, you know, a national expert and then international expert, and you do all this stuff, and that is considered the ultimate success. But I think writing this book helped me realize that my role in medicine is to really just stand up for people, which is what I was always good at and what I've always wanted to do. And doing medicine was a form of doing that, I think. And now, you know, I feel so happy to turning up to work every day without the stress of wanting to be like everybody else. I'm quite happy with, the journey of advocacy that I'm taking. It's scary, but I'm happy to do it because I know I can. And the culture of medicine, it requires reform, as you say. There's so many things that are wrong with it. The world of medicine is very strange, the way it operates. But if I could be a spark or a start of a change, and I don't think that I am special or have the superpowers to be able to change anything. But all I hope for is to be, as you say, the kind of mentor I wish I had. Giving people permission to be who they are within medicine. Don't let anybody else tell you that your career should look like X, Y, Z. Because if you are living your authentic life, you can thrive and you can do really well and make amazing contribution beyond what other people have done in the past. And that's something that is really beautiful.
There's a wonderful answer to that question, and I know it's a big question and it's a challenging question, but it's wonderful that this exercise has helped with that. There's a kind of a line that you mention near the end of the story where you say that you don't think you will ever be the same as you were after that sexual assault, and as much as you have traversed that road to acceptance, you're still traversing it. I'd imagine that some days are easier than others. So as my final question before we say goodbye to this amazing book that you've done, are you doing okay today?
I'm doing great today, Nick. Thank you. Thank you for seeing the book for what it is. And thank you for validating my experience. It means a lot. And I'm so glad that my story reminded you of people in your family and in your life. And, what more can I ask for? This is a beautiful experience. And, the more I speak about my experience and find my tribe, the better I feel about the future. And I think this is the beauty of this 21st generation, where if you look for them, your people are out there cheering you on. And, it's been great. Thank you.
You should be really proud of it. It's a damn good book. It's a damn good book. Hey everyone, Nick here. I'm excited to announce that I've launched a brand new book newsletter featuring book reviews, recommendations, latest news from the publishing world, opinion pieces, short stories, and more. One monthly newsletter, no spam, just the good book stuff. The sort of email you're glad shows up in your inbox. Sign up now for free, and for a small additional monthly fee, get early access to Date with a Debut episodes and exclusive content, including special extra episodes with our guests, Second Date, where they run another gauntlet of rapid-fire questions. Subscribe to my newsletter in the show notes below. We're now at the part of the show where we have a rapid-fire question part of the date, where I basically take a bunch of questions and I fling them at Dom, and she gives me the first answer that comes to her head. Dom, are you ready? Are you ready for some rapid-fire questions?
I hope so.
Prepare yourself. No. The first question I want to ask is, we're a book podcast. We love talking about books. We love the influence and the power of books. And I know, I can imagine that you are someone who does enjoy your reading. So my first question is, what is your favourite book that you've read in the last 12 months?
I have this book. Hang on.
Yes, pull it out of the
Yeah.
out of the background.
I just love this global time that I'm living in, because when I moved over from Korea, there was people asked me, "Are you from North or South Korea?" That's as much as people knew, and I am indeed from South Side. And now you can find like Korean books translated into English, and I absolutely love this book. I don't know if you've
Marigold Mind Laundry, yes.
Yeah. So this is a beautiful book. It's a healing fiction, written by Jung Yoon, and it's a bestseller in Korea. And I've really, really enjoyed reading this one. So it's about a woman who has a mysterious or superpower that somehow makes her parents vanish. Have you read this book? Yeah.
I have not. I've known absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah, and she spends the rest of her life trying to make other people pain go away.
Wow.
And this laundromat is where it happens. She transfers the pain onto t-shirts or clothes, and when you wash them, the pain disappears.
Now I've got to read that. I've got to add it.
Yeah, it's a really great book. But the message, but the message of the book is really that it's getting rid of the pain doesn't get rid of it. It's really embracing the pain that helps you. I thought that was really beautiful. So that's my favorite book from the last 12 months.
Great answer. I love it. Off the back of that, I mean, I love me a debut novel. I love a first impression. What's your favorite debut novel that you've ever read?
I am a self-confessed self-help book junkie.
Yes, there's so good.
I've spent so many years thinking that I need help. And I want to... I read this book this year. This is not a novel, so I'm sorry. This is a book.
Voice print.
Voice print by Sally Prosser, who is a voice coach, and she also published with Dean Publishing. And she helps you find your unique voice. So I came across this voice when I was struggling to speak up. Like a year ago, speaking on a podcast like this would have been unimaginable for me. And now I'm doing it. If I could read you something. So one of the things that she does is helps you find purpose or reasons for you to speak up or find your voice print. Because everybody has their unique voice print, like, fingerprint. And do you want to... And I wrote like a little note here about how
absolutely.
I wrote here, I am fireweed. I bloomed where everything once burned. My voice helps other survivors know their experiences are real, their stories matter, and they're not alone. By speaking up, I hope to help others find theirs too. So it's like a little mantra that I wrote for myself, which has been super helpful moving forward with, getting my book out there and doing interviews and so on.
Oh, that is wonderful. I've never actually had someone read a segment or something that they've learned from a book before, and I love that book gave you that. That's wonderful that book gave you that. I
highly recommend it. It's very
good. I'm going to have to check it out. My TBR pile is taller than my house at the moment, so I definitely will have to it'll be adding it to the list, but I want to check it out because that sounds like a book that would be incredibly valuable and handy. I have a couple of other questions from your book. I love one of the joys of your story was all the stories that you had working in different fields of healthcare, different hospitals. The catheter story with the penile implant. My dad uses catheters, so I don't know why I connected with that one a little bit. Are there any other stories like that you had, kind of moments like that in the medical space that you didn't get, that unfortunately ended up on the cutting room floor that you weren't able to include? Because those little stories are one of the joys of the book.
Oh, there's so many. I don't think it made it into the book. I think we edited it out. But there was a patient when I started working in radiation oncology who had, he asked me if I was Thai. That story's not in here anymore, is it? I'm pretty sure we took it out. When I started my radiation oncology registrar job, one of the clinics that I used to do was prostate clinic. Prostate cancer clinic, because that is the most common cancer in men. And this man asked me if I was Thai. And I said, I'm not. And he said, well, you look Thai. No, I'm not. And then he insisted that he introduces me to this chat room, like internet chat room that I should be part of. And I said, oh, I don't do that sort of stuff. And he said, oh, I've made many girlfriends through this online chatting. Like, where is this conversation going? So I somehow ended the conversation, and and that weekend I went to the supermarket and I saw this man.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Oh,
who
wow.
followed me from the end of the aisle with his trolley, and he was like, "Oh, I really wanted to talk to you about this chat room that I found, and blah 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 blah," and me running away. Like, stuff like that happens all the time. Like, inappropriate people.
Oh my god!
Are you Thai? You look Thai.
In my head, I'm just like, why are you even asking that question, man? What's wrong with you? Gee.
Oh, they love it. They love to see you panic.
Oh my god.
Right? Yeah, I won't give it to them. Yeah. Some people just want to be nice, but I don't think that man was trying to be.
Off the back of slightly cheeky questions, fortunately we're not going down that route, but you do a comparison in the book between Australian and New Zealand medicine, and that you say that the Aussie equivalent is more vocal and animated, I believe the term that you used. At the risk of putting you on the spot, do you have a preference of approach? Or is it all the same for you?
I've adopted now to adapt it to the Australian ways. I have a group of girlfriends from med school. We're still very much close friends, and we were leading up to the book release. We had a Zoom session because I was really worried about recording the audiobook. And they were like, "Oh, we'll get online and have a chat, blah blah blah." And they were like, "You are sounding more and more Australian every time we speak." And I think there's definitely, I've adapted to the Australian ways. My friends probably consider me overly verbal now. So, I prefer, I refuse to choose. I love them both.
That is an incredibly diplomatic response, and I respect it. Do you have a favorite word?
Great question. Favorite word?
Could be anything. Like, it could be like a work-related word. It could be like a word that the editor said, okay, you've said this word like 5 times in this sentence. Can you take it out? Or it could just be a word that brings you joy in life.
Grace. I don't think we have enough of that in this life.
That's a great answer. Haven't had the word grace before. That's a good one. I've had some colourful responses.
Yes. What was your favourite one? Until grace.
Until grace. I mean, some people have gone straight for swear words, and I kind of respect the audacity of that.
Me too. Yeah. No judgment there.
Nah, none at all. And then my final question, and it's a kind of a part of the story that we haven't really had the chance to talk about a little bit, but it does keep coming up. And I'm aware it's a very, very big question to finish off. But you talk a lot about religion in this book, and religion is a very big part of your story and your family. Where does God sit for you now?
It feels ungrateful to say that I'm at peace with God. Like we're equal, I am grateful that all of the things that had happened to me, the horrible things that happened to me, I could endure because of the people that surrounded me. And to me, in hindsight, I think they were a gift from God. And people who, and I don't know how other people see God, but I think, at least in my belief now, I don't look for miracles. I don't want special treatment. But I think in this world, at least I interpret it like God wants us to look after each other. And to me, the acts of kindness that have kept me going and kept me alive, and the relationships that I've built, the people that come into my life, like You are also one now, Nick. Yeah. These moments, I think, are godly moments. And that's good enough.
That is a wonderful answer to that question, and I sincerely appreciate it. And I could honestly chat to you all day, but unfortunately, we have run out of time. So to all of our listeners, I will say that this amazing book, What's Been Broken is All the More Sharp, is published by Dean Publishing. Thank you to them. You can get a copy in the description. You can check it out at your local library. You can get it online. Wherever you enjoy your books, it is there and it's available for you. If you enjoyed our discussion, Dom and I are literally about to record an exclusive second show on my newsletter called Second Date, where I will chat with Dom a little bit more about reading habits, other little key elements from the book. You can check that out in the description. Dom, I'll simply finish off by saying thank you so much. It has been a joy having you on Date with the Debut today.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here, Nick. Thank you for having me at such short notice. And I can't believe you read the whole book in a day. When the book is this good, it's easy to devour. Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. And thank you for giving me the kindness, and I can feel the love from here. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Date with a Debut, and for listening to the Words and Nerds channel. You can buy all books mentioned in today's episode down in the description box, and if you enjoyed the show, drop us a review, leave us 5 stars or a thumbs up wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to hear episodes when they drop, be sure to subscribe to Words and Nerds, or you can subscribe to Date with a Debut on Podbean to hear the latest episodes as they drop. This episode was edited and produced by myself, Nick Wasiliev. Additional production credits to Danny V from Words and Nerds, music by Shakira HZ, and thanks to the publishers and authors who make this show possible. This show is sponsored by Podpixels. Date with a Debut is a Words and Nerds and Breathe Art podcast co-production, recorded and edited on the lands of the Awabakal people.